The glasses were stacked high towards the ceiling as John walked through the narrow corridor in the kitchen. He had just washed every single one of these glasses over the last hour and was ready to go home when the manager walked up to him and asked the same question she asked every night.
Can you keep an eye on things tonight?
John usually refused, being that he had somewhat of a social life, but an inconvenient gap in his schedule left him with a choice. The choice was nailed with the manager offering double pay and the next night off.
I'll leave you the keys in case you have to leave, but please, try to stay for the whole night.
No problem. Hey, why do you need me to keep an eye on things? Replied John. The manager took a deep breath and responded.
I've been watching the security footage, and things have been happening. Stuff has gone missing, and I'm concerned that someone has been breaking in. If you're here, either the person will stay away, or you'll catch them in the act.
John nodded, seeing the logic in the manager's plan. An hour had passed since the manager went home for the night. John sat in the office playing on his phone, bored out of his mind. He lost another game and put his phone away and looked over at the security monitors. There was a slight movement on the monitors showing the main view of the restaurant, and John leaned in closer. One of the chairs upside down on the table began to shake, then fell over. John stood up and moved to the area where the chair had fallen. When he arrived at the area, nothing was out of place. He returned to the office and sat down, studying the security monitors again. The same monitor that showed the chair originally falling showed it once again lying on the floor. John shrugged and pulled out his phone once again, texting his girlfriend. About an hour later, his phone was on low battery, so he put it away and once again turned his attention to the security monitors. Lighting a cigarette, he leaned back and exhaled. When he glanced at the monitors, he began to choke, having sharply inhaled his cigarette. He put it down and looked closer. The same chair had fallen off the table and lay there again. John pondered this for a moment, looking away for just a split second, and when he turned back, all was well once again. He considered the lack of sleep was becoming a problem, and his mind was just playing tricks on him. With the door of the office closed, the sound of glasses falling and shattering was inaudible. John felt a breath on his ear and whipped his head around to look for the source, but nothing was there. He did happen to see the security monitors, and what was on them caused immense anger and fear to brew in him. On the monitor that showed his usual work area, he could see all of the glasses shaking, a few of them flying around and smashing against the walls. In his haste to get to the area, he failed to notice that nothing was out of place once again. John stood in the dish area, staring with disbelief that nothing was amiss. This time, he decided to stand and observe for a bit longer, as the activity seemed to occur when he wasn't in the area, so logic prevailed. He must have stood for maybe 30 minutes, but it felt more like 30 hours, the excruciating pain in his back causing him to retreat to the office to sit back down. He let out a sigh of relief as he collapsed into the comfort of the office chair. Curious, he wondered what would happen if he didn't focus directly on the monitors, instead opting to use his peripheral vision to catch any movement. Sure enough, he detected movement in the dish area, with the glasses flying every which way. He didn't get up, instead biding his time and just observing. At one point, he had to restrain himself as he saw the reflection of a gloved hand on one of the glasses as it whizzed past the camera. He stayed rooted to the spot as the reflection of many more gloved hands began to show themselves. The point of no return is when John thought he could see an eye and part of a nose reflected on a glass, and so he stood and made his way to the dish area, where he nearly fainted. Everything was right, but nothing was. It was as if he were looking at a photograph that had been double exposed. He could still see the glasses flying through the air, along with shards littering the floor, but he also saw stack after stack of untouched glasses, sparkling in the light. John ducked as the glass came straight at him, just missing him. This was all just so strange. Another glass came straight at him, and this time, rather than ducking, he reached up and tried to catch it. His hand made contact with something solid, and the glass fell to the floor, shattering. He pulled his hand away in a shock and froze. All of the glasses that were flying about stopped and hung in midair. Now that he was in the situation, he could see gloved hands grasping each glass, and that was when he screamed, passing out. The manager came in the next morning and shook her head as she saw the ruins of the stacks of glasses. She looked around for John, finding him nowhere in sight. She did a full walkthrough of the restaurant and found him nowhere in sight. The door to the office was open and the manager called out.
John? Are you in there? What the hell happened in here last night?
There was no response, so she moved to the office, looking in and finding it empty. She raised an eyebrow as she saw the security monitor showing a pristine dish area with the stacks of glasses still intact. She then noticed a dark shape on the floor and recoiled in horror as she recognized the shape to be that of John. She ran into the dish area and was met with the sight that beheld her when she first walked in. All of the glasses shattered on the floor, and no sign of John. She walked in a daze back to the office where she looked closer at the monitors. There was some movement in the dining area, and when she looked closer, she saw that John was standing at a table, shaking a chair and then pulling it onto the floor. She turned away, getting more and more angry as she knew who was behind all this. John. Before getting up to go confront him, she took one last look at the monitors and went white. As the light in the room faded, she saw that nothing was out of place except for the camera that showed the office. It showed John in the doorway, silently screaming for help.